Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Jones, and I'm the MLA for the beautiful constituency we're in here today, Calgary Southeast. I'm honored to be your MC for today's announcement. I'd like to acknowledge our special guests and speakers that you're going to hear from today, the first of which is Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services, Jason Nixon, Minister of Tourism and Sport, Joseph Schow, Chairman and founder of the AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada, Bradley Zell, and the Adaptive Sports Director of the AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada, Chris Cedarstrand. To kick off today's wonderful announcement, I'd like to invite Alberta's Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services, my friend Jason Nixon, to the podium. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Matt. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here at the YMCA for this very important announcement today. Thank you, Minister Jones, for hosting us in your community. I'd also like to thank the AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada for inviting me here today with my colleagues. I know how impactful the AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada is across Southern Alberta. Their mission to bring positive change to children with physical disabilities is evident through their grassroots sports programming. By creating programs that foster physical activity in an inclusive environment and building stronger, more resilient communities for everyone. We are very lucky to have such a world-class organization here in our backyard that brings so much joy, excitement, and resilience to children with physical disabilities. I'm also a big believer that we can use the power of sport to create healthier communities. This brings me to why I'm here today. I'm pleased to announce that the Alberta government has provided a $500,000 grant to the AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada that will help them expand their efforts to make Alberta a more inclusive place for people with disabilities. The AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada is a leader in advocating for adaptive sports, education, and social change to ensuring our communities are inclusive for everyone. This one-time investment will help AMP grow their community championship program here in Calgary and expand their program into Edmonton. The program introduces grade 3 students with all abilities to an inclusive hockey and life skills experience, including sledge and roller hockey. Experiences like this are so important for kids to build life skills in their areas of mental and physical health, as well as learning about the importance of integrity, character, and contributing to their communities. I know this investment will increase AMP's capacity to feel positive change in more communities across Alberta. Alberta's government remains committed to supporting organizations that care for vulnerable individuals and families in need in our province. Our partnership with the AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada is a great example of this. I know this funding will have a lasting impact for AMP and for the thousands of students who will be involved in the Community Championship program. I thank you again, all of you, for being here today for our announcement and looking forward to seeing the great results from this investment. Matt?
Thank you, Minister Nixon, and thank you again to the YMCA team, including Shannon and Nick. We're here at the Seton Brookfield Residential YMCA, one of the best in Canada. Next, I'd like to turn it over to our Minister of Sport and Tourism, Minister Joseph Schow.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be with you here today. I'm grateful to be joined by my colleagues, Minister Nixon, Minister Jones, Brad, and Chris. And you know it's a great day when you get to come to work at an ice rink or a basketball court or any sports facility, because these are the places that really build communities. And the importance of sport really can't be overstated. Sport is about so much more than the game itself or even the competition. It's about building confidence, community, and healthy habits that last for a lifetime. Sport has the ability to shape lives. It certainly helped shape mine. I would not be the person I am here today before you if it were not for the opportunities granted, the connections made, and the lessons learned on the field of play. And I can tell you that throughout my life, or rather throughout my time as Alberta's Minister of Tourism and Sport, I've had the pleasure of hearing countless stories of positive impacts that sports have had on the lives of Albertans. Every child deserves the opportunity to experience the positive impact of sport and to play sports in the ones that they love, regardless of ability. That's why I'm so proud that our government is partnering with the AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada, an organization that works each and every day to create an environment where children of all abilities can enjoy the power of sport. Because sports, as I've said, is for everyone. And through through partnering with incredible organizations like AMP, organizations that share our vision of accessible, affordable sport for all, we are one step closer to ensuring no child is forced to watch from the sidelines. Thank you, everyone. And I'll now turn it back over to Minister Jones.
Thank you, Minister Schow. And it's now my pleasure to invite Brad Lazell, the chairman and founder of the AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada, who's making this all happen, to the podium. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, guys. Absolutely humbled to be part of this. I've been involved in sports for about 35 years now, from grassroots to the NHL level, and this is absolutely one of the most amazing and important programs I've ever been part of. It's humbling to have the people that we have here today, the support that we've had from the government, from both NHL teams, where absolute adversaries on the ice, but when it comes down to the physical and mental health of children, everybody's on the same team. And I think whether as former athletes, parents, we know that things are really getting challenging for kids when it comes to inactivity, when it comes to sleep health, when it comes to screen time. So we've been very fortunate to get together with some ex-players and some current players that you see on the ice today to really make a difference and to get kids off their seats, out, moving, sweating, falling down, getting back up, building some resiliency, which is very true to the Albertan culture. But we just want to do something that wasn't just for boys or just for girls or just for kids in wheelchairs. We want to do something where it was for kids, and it was getting them out there in a brand new experience where they were going to fall down and fail a lot and build some confidence, getting back up, helping each other. So many times now we see kids when they fall down either mocking people or making fun of them. We try and instill some values that it's actually time to get over and help. And whether that's helping themselves, their teammates, or their classmates, there's just some great values and principles being reinforced here. And it's an even playing field. They're doing something they've never done before, and overcoming new challenges and getting excited about trying new things is just, it's a great thing to be a part of. Anyway, part of this is also just changing their perceptions. And, we have some para players out here that might not fit the more normal mold of what people conceive of someone being disabled. We have some of the most fit, strong, healthy, confident people that may be physically disabled, but they're really incredible athletes and incredible people. And God forsakes anything does happen to these kids, but now they know, again, when life does knock you down, there's some great support and great reinforcement and great principles being taught here. So it's an honor to be here. Absolutely humbled by the support from not just the government, the YMCA, the NHL teams, the Olympians, the Paralympians. We're all coming together trying to build healthier, stronger kids, and hopefully that builds into healthier, stronger communities. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brad. And finally, I'd like to invite Chris Cedarstrand, the Adaptive Sports Director for the AMP Legacy Foundation of Canada, to bring his remarks. Thanks, Chris.
No, once again, thank you everyone for being here. Everyone that's here, our ministers, our media, all the help that we've received along the way in having this endeavor sort of come full circle and seeing what you're seeing in behind us here. It's truly been an amazing journey. Coming from where sledge hockey was a very small sport, we're now getting it to the point where, it's being available for everybody. And, as Brad said, we have a lot of really interesting principles and things that we're out here teaching these kids. And, most importantly, beyond sport, in the way that sport gives back and allows kids to connect and be part of a team, we're really working on creating a really good community with these kids. And, hence the name Community Champions. These kids get to come out, we're teaching them to be good little humans. It's good out there, it's help who you can within, your community. And it's that community evolves in so many different places. You have, your family as a community, you have your classroom as a community, you have your school, you actually have the area that you live in. And we challenge these kids to be able to go out and try and make a difference in each of these communities. And it's not just about, helping out a teammate or a classmate, that can expand. And if we're, like Brad said, if you see somebody fall down, it's not about mocking them. It's about going over there and giving them courage, helping that person become resilient, and getting back up, right? Too often now we have kids that, fall down, which we all know happens in life, and they have a lot more trouble getting up than, they probably should. And teaching these kids through getting them on the ice and getting them into a completely new experience really, enforces that you have that ability to get back up, and having that support, having our Paralympians out on the ice right now, these kids getting to try an adaptive sport that they've never tried before, and seeing that this is a possibility, that they can go out there and do this, because most para sports actually have a tremendous amount of able-bodied athletes that play in them. You don't need to be an amputee like myself. You might have had a knee surgery, you might have an ankle surgery, and maybe you can't skate to the performance level that you want to. There's definitely things out there with that within the para world where it is all encompassing, right? And that's the beauty of this program again, is there's no limits into how we can take kids in. We will find ways to get kids on the ice, find ways to get them active, and allow them to grow as good little humans and good little community champions. So once again, we appreciate the incredible support from the government, from the YMCA, from our NHL teams. It's been amazing, and I can't wait to see where this program goes in the future. Thank you.
And with that, I'd like to now pass it over to Amber Edgerton, Press Secretary for the Minister of Tourism and Sport, to conduct the Q&A portion of this event. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of the formal portion, so we'll now be opening it up for questions. We have time for one question, one follow-up. Before asking your question, please state your name and your outlet, and please speak loudly and clearly. It's pretty loud in here. So we're going to start with media in the room. Please line up at the mic to ask your question.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can hear me. Jordan with CTV News. Maybe this is a question for Brad, but I'm just curious, is this a partnership with the CBE or school board? How are these students or classrooms chosen chosen to take part in this program?
Absolutely. We open it up to all elementary schools across Calgary, Edmonton, anyone that's able to get here. The great thing is, with the funding support, we've been able to provide all the facilities, all the equipment. The only thing the schools are responsible for are the buses to and from the venue. Everything else is covered that way, but we haven't picked a certain school board at all. We've just opened it up to any elementary school, any grade 3 program, grade 3, grade 4.
So the schools or the classes apply?
They do. They actually, it's really based on availability, and this is why we're so lucky to be here, because there was great support to provide these facilities, but ultimately they go onto our website, they fill out a form, we just verify that it's an actual school, make sure that we know where they're going, whether that's in Calgary or Edmonton, and then logistically start working through. We've got a calendar link, they just pick which dates work for them. It's worked out incredibly well. We went from literally working with 2 schools last year to we're going to have over 2,000 kids this year. It's incredible. But it's an easy process. Hopefully, we're trying to make it as easy and as enjoyable as well for the teachers. The Canadian Sports Hall of Fame has helped us actually put together a whole education package that they take with them. They can do activities before they get here. They can learn about some of the history of para sports, and then we have some activities for them to do after, once they leave here. But the equipment is really one of the biggest barriers to entry, especially with young kids that are dealing with disabilities too, because usually everything's customized. So, to get 80 sleds here and, provide all the equipment is one of the biggest hurdles that we've been able to really overcome. But it is open to any of the schools in both cities and surrounding areas.
And for either minister, this is one-time funding. What will you be looking at to determine whether or not this can be expanded or become an annual thing?
Well, to do this funding, we used our civil society funding, which was a fund that was designed for programs or areas that needed funding that there was not a line item in the budget for. So unique things like this, that obviously there wouldn't be a permanent source of budget funds that would be created in the Alberta budget. And so that fund was created by the former Premier Kenny, inside my department, to be able to look for areas like this. We've used it for everything from programs like this to expanding camp housing at Camp Kindle, which is the cancer camp, and everywhere in between where there just would not be a budget line that fits. You know, Brad told me about the work that he was doing, I think 2 Stampedes ago, and I really recognized that there was nowhere within my ministry that's responsible for those who face disabilities, both children and adults, where we would have funding for this type of a program. And so we wanted to try it. Obviously, I think we're seeing really good results, and we'll have to have conversations as we go into the next cycle between both Minister Schow and myself about where it might best fit in our budgets going forward. But again, this was a start, and I think a creative way to be able to use the civil society funds to be able to help impact those that individuals that are facing disabilities and individuals that are not, to be able to have a lot of success through sport. So I'm pretty excited to hear the results.
Aaron Toons, Live Wire, Calgary. Question for Minister Nixon. Minister Nixon, maybe tell us a little bit how you arrived at the $500,000 mark, and was it a hard choice to make that decision?
Well, look, I mean, I have a large budget, the second largest budget in government, so everybody automatically assumes that we have a lot of money in the couch cushions. The reality is that we don't. While I do have a large budget, I have also the most asked probably in government outside of health. And so every decision's a hard decision. Every time that we spend, whether it's $500,000 or $1 million or more, we're investing significant taxpayer dollars in whatever we're trying to invest in. I think, though, that spending some time with Brad, hearing the work that they're doing with the kids, that this fit exactly with what we were looking for. Our ministry is responsible again for both children and adults with disabilities. Often we spend a lot of our time in those areas focused on things like income supports through the ACE program or other avenues like that, which are critical. But we don't often get to spend some time looking at different ways that we can invest in things outside of that income support potential. And so I think this was a great opportunity for our ministry to partner with an organization that is working with the disabled community in a very unique way. And so that was a long answer to say, no, it was an easy decision.
Minister, an off-topic question. On January 2nd, the government dropped healthcare coverage for partial eye care support for seniors. Were you aware of that change? Maybe talk us through why, if so, why that change was made.
At the end of the day, it's a decision that's made by the Department of Health, Alberta Health, not by my ministry, though it does have overlap with the healthcare aspects that we're responsible for, obviously, with continuing care and with seniors. But I would refer you to Minister LaGrange for more details on the decision that Health made.
Okay, seeing no more media in the room, we'll go to media on the line. Operator, can you put through the first caller, please?
Our first question comes from the line of Shanna Mato from City News. Your line is open.
Hi there, thanks for taking my question. This is for either minister, perhaps Mr. Schow, because he is very southern Alberta, but earlier today Donald Trump threatened to use economic force to join Canada and the United States. Wondering if one of the ministers could react to that, please.
Well, I'll get you both. I know Minister Schow will want to comment on it, but I'll take an opportunity too, as both a Southern, Central, and Northern Alberta MLA. Look, the reality is we're seeing what's taking place in the United States, in my view, because of a leadership vacuum that has been created in Ottawa. And as the Premier said yesterday, the Prime Minister's selfish decision not to call an election to make sure that we could have stable leadership in Ottawa, working with premiers from coast to coast to defend the sovereignty of our country, but also to move forward in an economically viable way with our largest trading partner, the United States, is why we find ourselves in this problem. So let me say it again. As the Premier said yesterday, the Prime Minister should call an election right away. We need a strong Prime Minister in place, working with all the provinces to be able to make sure that Canadians' issues are being advocated well on the stage. This idea of now trying to have a federal leadership race to choose a new Prime Minister and then start an election as late spring or possibly even early summer, I think is catastrophic. And we also are seeing some challenges beyond just the situation that we see with the United States. I'll give you a simple example. Jasper, a community that has burnt down in our province, that we are desperately trying to help, that is fully the jurisdiction of the federal government through the National Park Services. We still cannot get a response from a federal minister when it comes to things like interim housing. The Premier wrote the Prime Minister several weeks ago before Christmas asking for more help and for some decision makers to come to the table. We still have not seen any example of that from the federal government. This is just a couple examples of the chaos that has been created by Justin Trudeau's inability to run his government and his inability to step down and make sure that Canadian people can elect a boss to be able to represent the Canadians' issues going forward. Mr. Schow? Mr. Schow doesn't want to add any more beyond that.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, my follow-up is, so the Premier has been spending a lot of time on Fox News lately, preaching friendship between Canada and the U.S. and in an attempt to avoid tariffs on any product. What do you make of that, and do you believe that that strategy is working? Is there any indication that that is bearing fruit?
Look, as the Premier said, the interesting part about the President-elect's communication is he's told us exactly what he wants to talk about. And so the Premier has said, let's have a conversation about the issues that seem to concern the Americans and move forward in a way that benefits both countries. The Premier is also spending a lot of time on American media and elsewhere, making sure that the United States understands the fact that this is some of the largest oil reserves in the world. We in Alberta can provide energy security not only for our own country but for North America, and we need to be able to make sure that the Americans understand what we have up here is I think critical not only for us, for them, and frankly for the world. And further to that, obviously, the Premier, again, that leadership vacuum that we see from the Prime Minister's chaotic situation within his own party right now, the Premier and other Premiers are having to step into that leadership position and defend our province and our country. And a lot of those challenges would go away, again, if Trudeau would call an election and we can get a stable Prime Minister in charge of Canada set up to negotiate with the next President of the United States.
Okay, can you put through the next caller, please?
Our next question comes from the line of Lisa Johnson from Canadian Press. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks so much for taking my question. I apologize. It's also off topic for Minister Schow. Just asking on behalf of a colleague, I'm wondering if you can please give us an update on the recently announced review to improve athlete safety in combat sports, and whether or not you are, if you've moved any closer to establishing perhaps a provincial combative sports commission.
Well, thank you for that question. What I would say is we take the safety and health of athletes in the province incredibly seriously. And hearing of the second passing of the fighter recently definitely reinforces the importance for us to have a look at the role the government plays going forward. So prior to Christmas, we had a meeting with the fight commissions in the province of Alberta to better understand the concerns they have, the role they play, and the role the provincial government has. I would say it's a bit early for me to make any comments about our next steps, but what I can say is we brought on Victor Cui, who is a subject matter expert in combat sports, to help us as we navigate this process. He has extensive experience working with international governments and consulting on things like athlete safety and combat sports, and I look forward to further consulting the combat sports stakeholders to make sure we get this right and make sure combat sports are safe in the province of Alberta.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, thanks for that. My follow-up would be whether or not you have a timeline for that, and I'm also wondering if the province is considering calling an inquiry into that death of that fighter in Alberta in November. Will there be an inquiry into that death?
So at the moment, we're going to allow the RCMP and the proper processes to unfold. So I wouldn't, again, it'd be too early for me to make any comments about our next steps beyond consulting with provincial fight commissions, or rather with regional fight commissions, to better understand the concerns they have with regards to combat sports in the province of Alberta.
Thank you. Can you put through the next caller, please?
Our next question comes from the line of Catherine Bukowski from Alberta Today. Your line is open.
Thank you. It's an off-topic question for Minister Nixon. The Alberta Union of Provincial Employees is saying that there's been a round of layoffs in November in your department, and another one is expected in spring. and they're saying there's concerns because there are 12,000 families waiting for assessments for disability services. Some have been on the list for 14 months or more. Why make layoffs when there is still these large wait lists for assessments?
Well, the union's wrong. There's no layoffs of the workforce when it comes to family services for children with disabilities inside my department. Our budget remains exactly where it was last year in this current budget year, and the same amount of staff that we've had to use to operate that organization, that part of my department remains in place. What is taking place is that some contract workers were brought in to do some contract work about a year and a half ago. That contract work has been completed, and therefore the contract has come to an end. But to be clear, we are not making changes to services for children with disabilities inside the department. The staffing remains stable, and the department budget in that area remains stable.
Is there a follow-up?
And on another topic, the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters has issued a news release because there's been 3 femicides within 72 hours, 2 of which were in Alberta. They're asking for more resources for shelters, including to be able to do preventative work. And I'm wondering, what conversations are you having with the shelter system and with your ministerial colleagues on preventing femicide?
Well, first off, those deaths are tragic. Anytime that we see domestic violence anywhere in our society, it's a tragedy, particularly when it results in loss of life. And our thoughts and prayers go out to all the families that are involved. One of the things that we made a decision on at the start of this term, at the end of the last term, was to actually move women's shelters out of the Department of Social Services, where it had been for a long time, and into the Department of Children's Services underneath Minister Turton's leadership. The reason we wanted to do that was to make sure there could be more focus on that issue of domestic violence, and we didn't want it to be lost in the large department that I run. There is still a tremendous amount of overlap between our ministries when it comes particularly to capital and to building women's shelters, and we work through the housing department to support Minister Turton in his efforts. I know he is working closely with all the women's shelters. This is a high priority for him. I will also say this is also why we have invested in women-only shelters when it comes to our homeless population, because we do recognize that there is domestic violence also taking place and other types of violence, including sexual violence, in the homeless population, and a need to be able to make sure that there were safe shelters for women, which we have been bringing online in both of our largest cities and seeing tremendous success in that work, and we intend to make sure that it continues. So Minister Turton is the best one to get an update specifically on where his ministry is at when it comes to women's shelters, but it continues to be a high priority of the government.
We have time for one final question, if you can put through the last caller.
The last caller is Heather Cameron from Alberta Newspaper Group Ltd. Your line is open.
Hi. As an adult with disabilities, I was wondering what supports are being prepared or provided to adults with disabilities who want to care about their health and fitness. I mean, you're talking about supports for children with disabilities, but what about for adults with disabilities? What's helping giving them, because they have a right to care about their health and fitness too, but they don't always have the resources or access to resources to give attention to that. And as an adult with a disability, multiple disabilities, I do care about adults with disabilities having access to this support.
So I had a little trouble hearing that full question over the noise in the arena, but I think I got the gist of it. Alberta's government is investing billions of taxpayer dollars each and every year into the disability community because it's a high priority of the government. It's why we have the largest AISH payments in the country. It's why we made decisions to index AISH, to be able to make sure that there was stable funding to be able to care for individuals who are facing disabilities and need to make sure they have a steady income. And that is an investment that we consider a high priority and will continue going forward. It also includes long-term investments inside those adults' health benefits, which remains inside that program is absolutely critical. You know, that AISH alone is about a $1.7 billion investment by the taxpayer every year. And I think that really shows the commitment of both the Alberta government and of Albertans making sure that we're investing and making sure there are stable, steady supports that Albertans with disabilities can count on.
Do you have a follow-up?
You'll follow? Yeah, you might have heard more.
Yeah, so what plans are in place for future supports for adults with both physical and mental disabilities so they feel supported long term?
So I'll let Minister Nixon finish with that question, but if I just add to the first question they had based on what I heard, and coming from the athletic and the recreation side, I think it's important to enforce how seriously we take health of all Albertans, especially when it comes to being physically fit. Recreation in sports is for everyone, and it's why I'm so grateful for Minister Nixon understanding the importance of all Albertans getting out and being active. This investment of $500,000 is just the beginning as I continue to work with my colleagues like Minister Nixon to find resources so we can make sure that we remove barriers. Barriers is a term that I hear quite often when it comes to accessibility for sports and better understanding how to get all Albertans of all abilities on the field of play, being active and being healthy, getting them outside, because that's really what we want to do as Albertans. We want to make sure we're being healthy, and that includes being active.
And again, I'll just reiterate the amount of money that we're investing, supporting, and standing with Albertans facing disabilities is significant, and it really illustrates the priority of the government. You know, about $1.7 billion again for AISH is bigger than both of the ministers' combined budgets that are up on the stage with me, and that's just one line item when it comes to the work that we do with those individuals facing disabilities. Give you another example. The work we do with families who have children with disabilities, over $250 million a year is being invested in those important programs. So it is a high priority for the Alberta government to make sure that we stand with Albertans of all ages and of all different levels to be able to make sure that they can have the best life that they can in this province, whether they're facing disabilities or not.
That brings us to the end of our time today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If there are any further questions that you weren't able to ask, you can find my contact information at the bottom of the news release that went out to accompany this announcement. Thank you.
Thank you so much.